What kind of person screams at a kid for carrying groceries in their own neighborhood? That's the question I couldn't shake as I sat on my porch, sipping coffee on a Saturday morning that should have been calm. The air in Maple Grove was usually quiet, the kind of suburban hush where the loudest sound is a lawnmower. But not today. A sharp, grating voice sliced through the cul-de-sac, and I knew instantly it was Linda Harper, the HOA president everyone just called the enforcer. She was storming across the street, her designer flip-flops smacking the pavement, headed straight for the community pool area like a missile locked on target. "Hey! What do you think you're doing here?" she barked, her finger jabbing at someone I couldn't see. "This is for residents only, not outsiders." I set my mug down and shuffled to the edge of my lawn, curiosity pulling me closer. That's when I saw him, Marcus, the new kid levying with the Grants down the block. He was maybe 16, skinny, clutching a grocery bag like it was his lifeline. His eyes were wide, caught between confusion and fear as Linda loomed over him. "I've got a pool pass," he said, voice soft, barely carrying across the street. "Mrs. Grant gave it to me." Linda didn't miss a beat. "I don't care what Emily Grant gave you," she snapped, her voice climbing to a pitch that could wake the dead. "I know every single person who belongs here, and you? You don't." From across the street, I noticed a woman I didn't recognize pull out her phone, filming the whole thing. She had this calm, almost clinical look, like she was studying the scene rather than just gawking. I'd met Marcus a couple of weeks back at the Grants' barbecue, where Emily had introduced him to a few neighbors. She'd pulled me aside, her voice low, and explained he was their foster son, placed with them after some rough times. "Make him feel welcome," she'd said, and most of us tried smiling when we passed him, wah-vee-wahing as he walked the Grants' labradoodle. Most of us, anyway. "Linda?" She'd made it crystal clear she wasn't on board. I'd overheard her at the last HOA meeting, muttering to her clique about how the Grants should have cleared it with the board before bringing someone like him into Maple Grove. I'd shot her a look, but like everyone else, I kept my mouth shut. Linda had a knack for making your life hell if you crossed her. Suddenly your hedges were too tall, or your mailbox was non-compliant. Marcus was settling in, though, or at least trying to. I'd see him helping Emily with groceries or walking the dog at dusk, always polite, answering adults with a "Yes, sir," or "No, ma'am." The Grants said he was catching up at school, making up for lost time. But Linda was watching him like a vulture. First week, she tried to slap the Grants with an HOA violation for unauthorized occupancy, a rule she made up on the spot. When that flopped, she started tracking Marcus's every move, claiming he was suspicious and making people uneasy. Last week, she swore he'd stolen her garden gnome, but a neighbor's Ring camera showed it was just a raccoon. I told myself it wasn't my fight, that someone else would step in. Looking back, I hate that I stayed quiet. My conscience was starting to itch, and it was about to get worse. Linda's harassment had been ramping up. She'd tail Marcus in her golf cart when he walked the dog, pretending to patrol, but clearly zeroing in on him. She'd make loud phone calls about security concerns whenever he passed her house. And now, here she was, cornering him by the pool. "I'm calling 911, she shrieked, fumbling with her phone. "You're trespassing on private property." Marcus glanced at his grocery bag, then back at her. "I'm just taking a shortcut home," he said, steady despite the tremor in his hands. "Mrs. Grant sent me to get milk and eggs." Linda scoffed. "A likely story. What, those groceries just jumped into your bag? For all I know, you stole them." I was fuming, ready to march over, when Marcus took a step back, clearly trying to defuse things. He turned to take the long way around the pool, but Linda wasn't letting up. She stomped after him, her voice booming. "Don't you dare walk away from me! I'm the HOA president, and you will respect my authority." I was halfway across the street when she cornered him by the mailboxes, her face red with rage, blocking his path. "That's it," she growled. "I'm calling IC." I know you don't have papers. People like you never do. I'm making a citizen's arrest until the cops get here. Marcus's face shifted from confusion to fear. I was born in Chicago, he said, voice barely above a whisper. I'm a citizen. Linda laughed, a cruel, mocking sound. Sure you are. And I'm the First Lady. The grants are just in it for the foster money. Nobody actually wants you here. That's when the woman with the phone stepped in, calm but commanding. Excuse me, she said, her voice cutting through Linda's rant like a knife. You need to step away from this young man. Now. Linda spun around, startled, then sneered. Who are you? Another one of his kind? This is a private community, and I'm handling a security issue. The woman reached into her bag and pulled out an ID card. My name's Sarah Coleman. I'm a social worker with Child Protective Services, here for a wellness check on Marcus Taylor, a foster youth under state protection. Linda's face paled for a split second, but she doubled down. Well, you should know he's been causing trouble. As HOA president, I have every right. Sarah cut her off. As HOA president, you can enforce rules about lawn care or noise levels. You don't get to harass a minor in foster care, make false accusations, or threaten him with immigration nonsense. That's targeted harassment, and as a mandated reporter, I'm required to report it. Linda crossed her arms, scoffing. You can't be serious. I was protecting our neighborhood. He was trespassing. Sarah held up her phone. I've recorded everything, and I've already called the police based on this and the grant's prior reports. Right on cue, a police cruiser rolled up. 2 officers stepped out, Officer Rivera, who I knew from Neighborhood Watch, and a woman I didn't recognize. What's going on? Rivera asked, scanning the scene. Before Linda could spin her story, Sarah stepped forward, showing her credentials. I'm with CPS, checking on a foster youth. I witnessed this woman verbally attacking him, accusing him of theft and trespassing, threatening to call IC on a U.S. citizen, and trying to block him from going home with groceries his foster mom sent him to buy. Linda's jaw dropped. That's not what happened. I was protecting our community from an intruder. Rivera turned to Marcus, his tone gentle. You okay, son? Can you tell me what happened? Marcus nodded, explaining how Linda had ambushed him on his way back from the store. By now, neighbors were spilling out of their houses, Mrs. Chen, Mr. Alvarez, even old Mr. Brooks, who never left his porch. The female officer jotted down Marcus's statement, while Rivera spoke into his radio. Linda's bravado was crumbling as the crowd grew. This is a misunderstanding, she said, her voice suddenly syrupy. I was just enforcing community rules. If I came on too strong, I'm sorry. Rivera wasn't buying it. Ma'am, based on witness statements and VY Deo e VY Denke, you're under arrest for disorderly conduct and harassment of a protected minor. Linda's eyes bugged out. Arrest? You can't be serious. Do you know who I am? Rivera didn't flinch. Yes, ma'am. You've made that clear. He read her rights as the other officer cuffed her, the metal glinting in the sunlight. The neighbors watched, some stunned, others barely hiding their smirks. Linda's face cycled through shock, fury, and panic as she was led to the cruiser. This is a mistake. You'll hear from my lawyer, she yelled, searching for support among the crowd. But no one spoke up. Most avoided her gaze. A few looked downright pleased. Marcus stood with Sarah, who rested a hand on his shoulder. None of this is your fault, she told him. You belong here. What she did was wrong. 3 days later, an HOA email landed in my inbox, and I felt both relieved and guilty for not acting sooner. Linda was out as president, effective immediately. She faced charges of disorderly conduct, harassment, filing false police reports. She'd called the cops on Marcus twice before with made-up stories, and interfering with a foster child's rights. Bail was set at $25,000, with up to 2 years in prison and hefty fines on the table. She was out on bail but ordered to stay 500 feet from Marcus and the grants. Word was, When the judge laid out the potential sentence, Linda looked like she'd been slapped. The woman who terrorized our street with her rulebook was finally facing the consequences of her own cruelty.